Okay, so, you know, there's been a ton of talk recently about the P. Diddy case, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And trying to like wrap your head around all the news and everything can be a little overwhelming, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a wild story. There's some serious legal questions and then like the whole cultural impact thing.
Right, exactly. And that's kind of what we're going to dive into today
Yeah.
for this deep dive.
Yeah, we've been looking at a bunch of stuff like news reports, obviously, but also some really in-depth legal analysis.
Yeah, so the goal is basically to give everyone like a clear breakdown of the legal side of things, but also the bigger picture stuff, like how this is affecting the culture.
Family.
So let's jump right in.
Okay.
Okay, so for anyone who might not be super familiar with all this or just needs a quick recap, what are like the main allegations being made against Diddy?
So basically, it boils down to some pretty serious accusations against Sean Combs, you know, P. Diddy.
Right.
We're talking about sexual assault, harassment, and some other pretty major misconduct
Hmm.
claims. And the thing is, it's not just coming from one person,
Yeah.
you know? There are multiple individuals who have come forward. A lot of them are like former employees or people he's worked with.
Oh, wow.
And it's gotten to the point where there are lawsuits happening in different states.
Oh, geez.
So yeah, it seems like this could be a pretty widespread thing.
Yeah.
From the start, it's important to understand just how serious and how many of these accusations there are.
Yeah, for sure. When you hear about multiple people coming forward over a period of time, it definitely feels like more of a pattern than just isolated incidents.
Exactly.
And obviously, this goes way beyond just the legal stuff, right? It's affecting his whole public image, too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's having a huge impact. He's worked for years to build up his reputation, and now that's taken a major hit. And you can really see it in how brands and companies are reacting. They're distancing themselves from him left and right, which tells you just how seriously people are taking these allegations.
Right. Yeah. It's like they don't even want to be associated with him anymore.
Exactly. It really highlights how quickly things can change when accusations like this come out.
Totally. So, with all these lawsuits going on, what's happening on the legal side of things? Like, where are we in the process and how long could all this take?
So right now we're in the early stages. The people making the accusations, the plaintiffs are starting to present their initial evidence, laying the foundation for their cases.
Okay.
And at the same time, Diddy's legal team is busy getting their defense strategy together, gathering their own evidence, and figuring out their legal arguments.
Right.
What makes this case really interesting is just how many accusations there are and the fact that they're saying this stuff happened over many years. Cases like this, where you're dealing with things that allegedly happened a long time ago, are always tricky
Yeah.
because, memories can fade and evidence might be gone. It's hard to prove stuff like this.
Right. It's not like it happened yesterday.
Exactly.
Yay.
So finding people who can back up the stories after all this time could be a real challenge.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we're looking at a long and complicated legal process that could drag on for quite a while.
Yeah. That makes sense. It seems like a really tangled web. So, we've talked about the legal side and the impact on his reputation. But it feels like this case is hitting a nerve culturally, too, Like it's tapping into something bigger.
Oh, definitely. You can't really talk about this without thinking about the whole conversation we've been having about power dynamics and how that plays out in different industries.
Right.
It really reminds you of what happened with the whole Me Too movement.
Yeah.
And it makes you think specifically about the entertainment industry, where there's always been this kind of power imbalance.
Yeah, for sure.
And, Diddy's a super influential figure. He's not just a celebrity. He's like a mogul and entrepreneur. He's got his hands in so many things. So it makes you wonder, does a case like this make us rethink how we view celebrity power and how much they should be held accountable?
That's a really good question. It makes you wonder, could this whole thing actually lead to some big changes in how the entertainment industry handles these kinds of accusations in the future? Yeah. That's the million-dollar question, right? Can this be the thing that forces them to take this stuff more seriously and really change how they deal with it?
Right.
There's definitely this tension between wanting things to be different, wanting there to be more accountability, and then there's the reality of how power works in that industry.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like a system that's been in place for a long time.
exactly. It can be frustrating because progress is so slow. But, at the same time, it's encouraging to see that more and more people are willing to speak up and share their stories.
Yeah.
That's got to count for something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the legal challenges here. What are some of the hurdles that each side is going to have to overcome as these cases go forward?
So for the people accusing Diddy, they have to convince the court that what they're saying is true. And that's not always easy, especially when you're talking about things that happened a long time ago.
In legal terms, it's called the burden of proof. They have to present enough evidence to show that their claims are more likely to be true than not. And like we said before, after so much time, memories can be fuzzy and evidence might be gone.
Yeah, that's tough.
Exactly. So they're going to have to really work hard to build a strong case.
Mm,
On the other side, Diddy's legal team is probably going to argue that the accusations are just not true.
I see.
They'll try to come up with other explanations for what happened, and they'll try to make the people who are accusing him look less believable,
Yeah.
cast doubt on their stories.
Right.
Cases like this are tough because they're all about memory and how people interpret evidence, and whether you believe someone's story or not, it gets really complicated.
Yeah, that makes sense. But it's not just about what happens in the courtroom, right? Like, public opinion matters too, and how the media covers all this.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. High-profile cases like this one, they play out in the media too.
Yeah.
And the way the story is told can really influence how people see things.
Yeah, you see it all the time.
It can even affect who gets chosen for the jury if it goes to trial. And both sides know this.
Mm-hmm.
So they're both going to be trying to spin the story in their favor.
Yeah.
They'll be putting out statements and stuff, trying to control how people see it. It's all part of the game.
It's like a whole other battle happening outside the courtroom.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It just shows you how complicated it all is and how much stuff is going on behind the scenes. So, it makes you think, how does all this media coverage affect how you understand these kinds of cases? Does it make things clearer, or does it just make it more confusing?
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. It makes you question everything you read and hear. So to wrap things up, let's talk about the bigger picture. What does this whole case mean for the idea of accountability? Not just in the entertainment industry, but everywhere.
I think this could be a real wake-up call for the entertainment industry. But it goes beyond that, too. For a long time, it felt like powerful people in certain industries could basically do whatever they wanted and get away with.
Right, like they were untouchable.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But this case, and others like it, are starting to challenge that. They're saying no matter how rich or famous or powerful you are, you still have to answer for your actions.
Right.
And if that message really gets through, it could change how we deal with these kinds of situations going forward. You could set a new standard for how people are held accountable.
Yeah, that would be huge. So basically, it sounds like what's happening with P. Diddy is way bigger than just a legal case. It's a turning point that could change how we think about accountability in a really powerful industry.
Exactly. And as you keep following this story, it's important to remember that there are deeper issues at play here. Like, how do we get to a point where these kinds of things were able to happen?
Right.
It's not enough to just focus on the headlines and the legal outcomes.
Yeah.
We need to look at the systems that allowed this to happen in the first place.
Yeah.
And we need to figure out what real accountability looks like.
Yeah.
How do we prevent this from happening again? That's the question we need to be asking as this whole thing unfolds.
Absolutely. Really important stuff. So that's our deep dive on the P. Diddy case. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me.
And make sure to check back for more deep dives on the stories that matter.
Yeah. We'll see you next time.
Bye.